I'm Joel Cohen, and welcome to another edition of Best Practices. With us today is Dr. Joe Niatmu from Virginia. Joe, we appreciate you joining us today. From what I understand, this is the first video that you filmed with your clothes on today. Is that correct?
It is, and I shaved my head for this as well, so it's important. I wanted to look really good for you.
Thank you. You know, in all seriousness, Joe, you've been really a pioneer in many things. You've had important articles, you've written books, and you really have pushed us to think about the way that we do things, the anatomy, and also marketing. So can you talk to us a little bit about your early years and how you got involved in so many different projects?
Well, you know, Joel, I think that and you have the same disease, the can't say no disease. So most people that are really good at what they do, they're passionate about it, and they love it, okay? And I was talking to a group of high school students the other day, and we were talking about success. And I told them that success is when you go to bed on Sunday night and you're excited to go to work on Monday. That means you're successful.
In our practice balance of smaller procedures and bigger procedures, or minimally invasive procedures and more significant surgical procedures, I think the pendulum swings at different points, and we've certainly seen that over the years. And now I think we're seeing some procedures that may require different levels of anesthesia. You know, so coming from somebody who did a general surgery internship before dermatology, before a Mohs fellowship and an aesthetic fellowship, you know, how do you start thinking about these things again? Do you work in concert with anesthesia, and how do you start offering these different procedures in your practice?
Right. Well, I'm in a little bit different situation because a big part of maxillofacial training, we're anesthesia certified, so I have a license in my state for general anesthesia, and we do a lot of our own procedures. However, now that I do, 90 facelifts a year, I'm operating on older people with comorbidities, so I'm not doing that anesthesia. And I have, I guess the biggest way to answer your question is to get an accredited surgery center within your office, okay, which is not as hard as it sounds. And then you can have anesthesia personnel come in, and there are continuing education courses in anesthesia. You know, most of the things that we do, and obviously the derms have pioneered, tumescent techniques. Most of the things that we do don't require general anesthesia. However, most of the things that I do require general anesthesia. And when you talk about that balance, it's funny how one can affect the other. Two things that I, in the past, did a lot of that are really diminishing in my practice are brow lifting and cheek implants, all right? I mean, I did a lot of it. And you know what? Products like Voluma and the higher G prime fillers and the ability to come in and give somebody 10-minute cheeks is made a huge impact. You know, I mean, I like doing cheek implants, but that's part of progress. Same thing with brow lifting, and I'm not sure the brow lifting is in part because what we can do with minimally invasive things, but also, there's a lot of people out there that have had bad cosmetic surgery, and over elevated brows is one of the worst stigmata that you can see. And so the public becomes educated to what they don't want. You know what I mean? Sometimes our patients don't know what they want, but they know for sure what they don't want.
So we all have a lot of technology in our practice, and sometimes we're learning how to use it better. Can you tell us about something that you've had in your practice that maybe in the past year or so you've really found your sort of sweet spot with it and you've really hit your stride?
Oh man, I'm going to answer that in two ways. Number one, I have been an old school laser resurfacing guy from the get-go, and I really never got that much into fractional lasers, and I think there's going to be a resurgence because the result that you can get, albeit a lot of recovery. But to answer your question, if I had to pick one device, it would probably be my vascular laser, 940 wavelength. I used to use that casually for spider veins, but I use it a lot more for venous lakes and DPNs and bigger vascular lesions. Joel, having a largely surgical practice, I don't have a ton of machines. I have 4 or 5 lasers. I have an Elman radio wave machine that I use constantly. I use it for blepharoplasty, I use it for facelift, I use it to take moles off. There's a minor skin tightening system that goes with it, but I'm really not a guy that has a ton of machines.
So And from a marketing perspective, you've made important contributions. You're always at the podium talking about new and innovative ideas. How do you keep it fresh, and how are you always ahead of that curve?
You know, that's the challenge. And I think all of us that lecture a lot, we have a little, almost like a net, like a fish net, you know, that extends out there looking to grab new ideas. And it's amazing because one of the things I was speaking about here was at this meeting was the good, bad, and the ugly. It was a complications session where we would talk about complications, and I had submitted my lecture. And then in the last couple weeks, I came across this little device on the internet. I don't know if you saw my lecture today. $70 device that you hook up to your neurotoxin freezer or your fat freezer, and a downloadable app, and it sends you an alert if your power drops. I lost $60,000 worth of inventory of neuromodulators a couple years ago. We had a power outage on a weekend, and I came in 3 days later, and you know, it was incubated. And so anyhow, I saw this little device, $70 on Amazon. I said, you know what? Because most docs, I mean, some people have expensive monitoring systems and backup generators, but your average doc who has a refrigerator full of Botox or Dysport or Xeomin probably isn't monitoring it. So here's a little device, 70 bucks, bam, a light went off. I said, that's gonna be my lecture, okay? So I don't know, man, how do we do it? We're just looking, I think innovative people are looking for innovative solutions, and hopefully you can keep it going.
We appreciate you joining us. It's good to see you, and thank you all for joining us for another edition of Best Practices.